economic freedom fighters won't participate in tomorrow's election of a new National Assembly Speaker. It comes after outgoing Speaker Thandi Modise was redeployed to the Defence Ministry during the recent cabinet reshuffle. Now, the ANC's preferred candidate to replace Modise is Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, who's due to be officially elected into that position tomorrow. The EFF has said it won't participate in the vote questioning whether it's permissible for a president to hire and fire the Speaker of Parliament. The party further accused Ramaphosa of being hell-bent on undermining the principle of separation of powers. Well, joining us tonight on this issue is the EFF Treasurer General, Omphile Maotwe. Omphile, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time tonight. Firstly, these are some very strong statements that you are making against the president in terms of his exercise of power. Talk to me about the decision to not participate in tomorrow's vote.
Good evening, Kathy, and good evening to the viewers of Newzroom. So we must all be worried about the conduct of the president of the ANC, because we have the three arms of state in South Africa. That is the judiciary, that is the legislature, which is parliament, and that is the executive, which is cabinet. Now, you can't have the head of the executive removing the democratically elected head of the legislature. So I want us all to understand that, because that is the fundamental problem that we have as the EFF, which seeks to spit on the faces of those who came up with this project called democracy. This is the fundamental principle of our founding constitution of this country, that you can't, you have to be able to have separation of powers. Now, if the president can willy-nilly remove and replace the sitting Speaker of Parliament and publicly announce that he is going to deploy his own minister somewhere else, and it turns out that few days later we've got the national chairperson of the ANC, who is an official of the ANC, convening a caucus to inform them to elect this person, then you've got a very serious problem in South Africa. Because, and we see this attempt also of wanting not to separate powers, to respect the separation of powers by the president. We see it going into the judiciary itself, because with the judiciary, we see now that the elections took place, and now we are told that the process must start from scratch. Because why? And we should ask that ourselves, that those questions, Casey. But we can't. So if the president of the state was not happy with the speaker, he should have allowed parliament. Parliament is the one that elected the speaker. Yes, the parties forward names of who they think should become the speaker of parliament. But it is not the president who appoints and then removes. So the president should have been patient enough to go back to his caucus and said, I think we made a mistake, let us remove. And then parliament will start that process of either the motion of no confidence against the speaker, or politely ask the speaker of parliament to resign for that position to be vacant. Now, the president removes the democratically elected speaker and then announces that he is going to appoint somebody else. And we see now being told, his caucus being told that they must vote for the speaker. So we will not legitimize an illegitimate process, Casey. Unfortunately, it will not be in our name.
So if I understand you correctly, Omphile, your staying away tomorrow is based purely on the process that you feel was followed to get to this point, and not necessarily against the nomination of Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula as the speaker.
So if there's a vacancy, it must be filled. You can't have a vacancy forever. I mean, it hampers on the process and the progress of parliament. There's a lot of things that the speaker does in parliament, but we refuse to play factional politics that the president is trying to do. We refuse to be led by an autocratic leader who willy-nilly can just appoint and remove. This is not the branch of the ANC. This is not the Stokvel of Ramaphosa. He must respect the democratic principle of this state that he's leading. So we are saying he is the head of the executive. He cannot remove a head of the judicial, of the legislature. And by the way, for him to even pick up the name and say, you, Mama Nosivio, you're going to lead parliament, the same parliament that must hold the executive accountable. So we're in a mess here, Kathy. If you were to sit and analyze this thing, Mama Nosivio is going to be appointed the head of legislature, right? But this head, this legislature, is the arm that is supposed to hold the head of the executive accountable. How is that going to happen? And then you've got the same head of the executive saying, we will deploy her, Mam Casey, Casey. He was very clear, Ramaphosa, to say, we remove her as from my cabinet, but we're going to deploy her somewhere else. And where is that somewhere else? To go and be the head of the legislature. The head of the legislature that must lead the legislature, that must hold the executive accountable. The executive that has already announced that we are going to deploy him.
It's been about 2 weeks since this announcement was made. So there's been some time for groups and parties like yourself to try and get answers, including from Parliament, about the constitutionality of what has transpired. Have you done that at all?
So we've been waiting for so it's like this issue of the elections. The IEC could not approach the court because the date was not gazetted, right? So you could not speak from the air. When Ramaphosa was in KZN, he announced that the elections will be on the 27th of October. But who is he to announce the elections? So that's why you saw Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma announcing and gazetting the date for IEC then to have a leg to stand on to approach the court. So we have been waiting for them to set the date, and then we argue with them that this can't be correct. So what we're asking the president to do is to respect the constitution, is to respect the very democracy that he is championing today. He can't spit on the faces of those who fought for this democracy. You know, this capture, Casey, we might think that the state capture was something big, but this one is an attempt to capture all the arms of the state. Because once you capture the legislature, and then we see the attempt to capture the judiciary, South Africa is gone. We are going to have a president who does as he pleases, and we must all be worried. So
what do you want from the president then? What do you want the president to do? And again, he could well be within his rights to say, even though he was talking about redeploying Mapisa Ngakula, he didn't necessarily know that she would end up in Parliament, because the nomination in Parliament is up to the ANC caucus, and they could well continue to back this nomination even under a different process.
No, and that is the process that we say it must be respected. So, Kathy, here is the president of the ANC announcing that he is removing the minister and he is going to deploy the minister somewhere else. And then the national chairperson of the ANC, who is an official that sits with the very president, goes and convenes the caucus of parliament and say, this is the land. You've seen it, you've read about it, you know about it, Katie. And how do you expect those members of ANC in parliament not to toe the line? Because they are scared that they are going to be removed. The highest decision-making body of the organization has spoken that we are going to elect Mama Nosivio to be the Speaker of Parliament. So all that we are saying is those things, Kathy, it can't be that the president himself, he's the one who's leading that charge of saying, remember, he's the one who removed the speaker. And now he's the one who's announcing that he is going to deploy this minister that he has removed now to be the speaker. So there's no confusion there. It is the president of the ANC who removed the minister, who removed the speaker, who now wants to install. If it was for Ramaphosa, he wouldn't even bother. I'm telling you, the way he does his clueless about his own constitution, I'm sure he will even just appoint. He thinks he's got those powers to just appoint. So we are having a president that doesn't know his own constitution. We're having the president that seeks to capture all three arms of the state, and we must be very, very worried. The speaker was elected before, but it was never the president who announced. It was never the national chairperson who convened the caucus of the ruling party to say, we're going to vote for this person.
EFF Treasurer General Omphile Maotwe, thank you for your time on News at Prime.